Good day and namaskar. Recently, there have been a couple new baked bean forks on the Kronos network, and with that, questions. How many times should I infuse to each withdraw? How many times should I claim per week? Or how many times should I compound in a day? You might even be asking, how much will I make? Stay tuned, and we'll start looking at all those numbers. And before we dig in, I just want to remind you once again, I'm not a financial advisor. These videos are to help you increase your awareness. I'm showing you some numbers. I'm showing you some maths. At the end of the day, your investment is your own responsibility. Do your own research. This is just part of your balanced breakfast. We'll start with withdrawal ratios. So all these baked bean forks come up with a plan 6-to-1. Compound 6 days and you withdraw on the last day. Increases your principal 6 out of the 7 days, and then you get paid on the 7th. As well, we're going to look at the 13-1 ratio, and we're going to look at once a month. You compound every day of the month, except the last day, you pay yourself. And we'll see how effective these strategies are and how they compare against each other. For each of these examples, we're going to have a principal of about 1428 Crow, which on day 1 should pay out about 100 Crow per day at about 7% rate of return. We are going to infuse once per day or withdraw once per day, depending on where we are on the schedule. At 1 week, at 2 weeks, at 3 weeks, and at 4 weeks. How much is your return in total for the entire month? So we look at 6-to-1, and so far you've already cashed out 1193 Crow, which is only about 300 Crow less than your initial investment. At 13-1, you've cashed out about 805, and at a month, you've cashed out about 610. At 2 months, you've paid off your initial investment on all accounts. At 6-to-1, you're making 73.13 in your pocket. At 13-1, 55.39, and at 27-1, 4,449. 3 months, you can see 6-to-1 is still ahead, and every 2 weeks is catching up. At 4 months, 2 weeks has just passed, and at the 6th month mark, you can see what your final numbers are looking like. You can see that if you're doing 6-to-1 strategy, you're going to be golden the whole way through. At about 6 months, you start seeing a significant difference. These are high risk. This is 6 months at an ideal rate of return. So this is why 6-1 is such a great plan. If you decide to go lower than 6-1, you will have higher gains at the very beginning, but you will cripple your gains in the long run. Some of these have it written in the code, so if you're continually withdrawing, it will expedite that until you're gaining almost nothing per day. The next question that is often asked is, how often should I be compounding per day? It highly depends on how much you're gaining per day. We're going to take a look at a few numbers. These are not your initial investment. You can make these estimations by how much return you're getting per day. 5 options here. Few ideal turning points. 100 Crow per day, 600, 1400, 25, and 3800. Compounding 1 to 5 times. And these are rough guidelines, but if you go by these, you'll be just fine. If you vary from these, you'll gain a bit of loss. But in the end, you'll find that that loss is not that significant. By compounding twice a day at a gain of about 600 per day, you're gaining about 30 cents, about 0.3 Crow. At 1400, it can make a difference of 1.5 Crow. At 2500, it can make a difference of 3.4 Crow. And at 3800, it can make a difference of almost 6 Crow. You're not gaining or losing that much. You can maximize your gains, but at the end of the day, if you can only do it once a day, it's still a pretty safe bet. Now, why do you not gain a ton more just by compounding? Let's look at the example of 100 Crow per day. Your interest per day on that is 7. You're going to be gaining that every day, whether you compound or not. Now you're gaining an extra amount of interest on that 7 Crow. Many of you have already seen the graph of compounding interests, where it can only go up. But keep in mind, there are fees for that. 0.39 Crow. That's nothing. I can keep compounding and lose nothing. And for that, we're going to reassess how compound interest is added. For 100 Crow per day, at 7% interest per day, we're getting 7 Crow per day in interest. That's going to happen whether we compound or not. So the difference in compounding is applied to that 7 crow. It will be 7% of that 7 crow, which is going to be 0.49 crow, applying the 0.39 total gas per day. The amount of interest we're gaining by compounding that early, 0.1 crow. Say we increase that to 2 times a day, paying 0.78 crow, and now we're breaking up our interest, compounding twice a day, and we're gaining about 100 crow per day. Now we're applying that 7% interest on our 50 infusion, which is 3.5 crow. Now the extra crow we gain from that is 0.24 by compounding early. Our fees are 0.39. So now we're actually losing more by compounding more frequently than if we had just compounded once a day. If you have 100 crow, compounding every time you get to about 111 crow, you're looking at your ideal situation. If you're at 600, you want to be at about 300 crow per compound. If you're at 1400, you want to be at about 466 crow. 2500, every 625 crow. 3800, every 760 crow. Keep in mind that even if you compound just once a day, you're not losing that much. At 100 crow, the difference is 0.01. You can ignore that. The difference for 3800 crow is still only 6 crow. But you might be asking, what happens if I compound too often? If you have 100 crow and you compound as if you have 3,800 crow, you're going to be losing 1.74 crow every day. Your crow per infusion is going to be about 16 crow. You'll be gaining 0.19 crow per compound. If you're now compounding every 4 hours, you're only compounding on 16 crow. And the 7% of that is 0.19 crow. So the extra that you're gaining by compounding 4 times a day is only going to be 0.01 crow, paying 0.39 crow each time. If in doubt, stick to the 6-1 strategy and compound once a day. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions, be sure to ask them. If you like the video, like, share, subscribe, and let's go ahead and earn some crow and let it flow.